A very good evening and welcome. This is Primetime News on News First, coming to you live and direct on TV1. I'm Ramesh Irugal Bandar.
And I'm Bandin Chai Singh. Very good evening to you.
New York Times informs Mahinda Rajapaksa to contact senior editors without intimidating journalists. Parliament in disorder due to Vijayakala Maheswaran's controversial statement. Attempts made to take away mace in Parliament. Tab for Students project, cancelled by the President to be introduced as a pilot project. Former Malaysian Prime Minister nabbed on charges of corruption and embezzlement.
The topic of providing tabs to students has once again made an entry in corridors of who make decisions on education. Our investigative segment, Action TV, delves deep into this.
In the 2017 budget, the government proposed to provide free tabs to students and teachers in GCE advanced level. Yesterday, the Minister of Education, speaking to reporters at the ministry premises, underscored that this proposal will be implemented as a pilot project. A total sum of 5 billion rupees was allocated for this project. However, later the President intervened and instructed to put a stop to this project when the memo put forward by the Ministry of Education seeking permission to award the procurement tender to one particular supplier was taken up for discussion at a cabinet meeting in April.
He was commenting on the information available to him. When others made comments as president, he must take them into consideration. He wanted it to be presented to another committee and it has been done. 2 representatives each from the president and the prime minister are in this committee. There are 2 representatives from my ministry as well in this committee of experts. We are looking at this project and we will launch this at least as a pilot project.
Though the reasons for the President to decide to put a stop to this project are not clear, the National Education Commission, which makes recommendations to the President on education policy in all its aspects, has ruled the TAB project was not suitable for students.
A tab is not a learning instrument. It can be used to access the internet. The internet is used for entertainment purposes. That is not required to be given to children. Children need good books for their education. I clearly stated that this was not suitable at all. I informed them this would be a complete waste. Money is being used for this. They do not consult us on monetary matters, but they consult us for other matters.
The Education Ministry, which is gearing up to launch the TAB program as a pilot project, last year printed the grade 8 geology textbooks on artificial paper, and this too was a pilot project. These textbooks were printed in complete deviation from the procurement process. But after they were given to students, the books were collected back from them after the Institute on Technology had informed the Presidential Investigative Unit that the paper was harmful and poisonous. The Presidential Investigative Unit had uncovered that the government incurred a loss of 128 million rupees through the printing of these books. At yesterday's media briefing, questions were raised as to why the recommendations made by the Presidential Investigative Unit against those responsible for the 128 million loss were not enforced. It was just a test, so it is not required.
For more on this, we now cross over to our colleague Zulfiq Farzan, who is standing by on the 3rd floor. Zulfiq?
Thank you very much, Ramesh. Now, if you were following the Action TV expose there, the figure is 128 million rupees to print the grade 8 textbooks on geology, and that was a loss to the government. 128 million rupees. Now, if a government minister, a responsible government minister, is making a statement that we must just brush aside the 128 million rupees, what more can we expect from them? Now, the Ministry of Education over the years has gone on to launch so-called pilot projects to the tune of billions of rupees, and most of those projects have not been made use of. Now, there's an attempt to launch a pilot project at a cost of 5,360 million rupees, and this tender had been given to the bidder who quoted the highest price, deviating from the actual price. Now, this is a 3rd highest bidder. Now, the committee that was appointed makes recommendations claiming that these devices are durable and have no health hazards to the students. But the question is, have the appropriate and relevant tests been carried out to check the durability and to check if this is safe for the students to use? Because there are globally accepted practices that need to be followed when checking on the durability and the safety aspect of certain devices. Now, the Minister of Education as a whole has a weird way of functioning. Now, there was a procurement for virtual reality units for 137 schools. Now, in this procurement, there was no condition imposed on how the health hazards should be inspected or looked into, but it was awarded to the company that quoted the highest price. Now, the government and the authorities in responsible positions must make it public as to how they selected these devices and the criteria used to check the standards, the durability, as well as the health hazard aspect that clearly impacts the students. Now, if you listen to the Action TV expose, the government minister says he does not know why the president made a statement to stop the process of going into this project. But the president appointed a committee with representatives from the president himself, the prime minister, and also professionals from the universities of Moratuwa and Kelaniya, and inclusive of the TRC, to make recommendations on this matter. Now, if the said pilot project is being done, it should be based on the recommendations that are put forward by this committee. But bear in mind that this committee was only appointed for the procurement process. But the most important question right now is, what or why are these tabs being given? What are they going to be used for? Now, the National Education Commission, the official in the Action TV expose, mentioned that the tab is not a learning instrument, and he said that it is not required. Now, here's another twist to the story. Now, the advanced level students are all aged 17 to 18, and they are the ones who are going to be given these tabs. Now, in 2 years' time, they will become eligible voters, and one could assume by that time, could these tabs that were given to the students be viewed as a bribe to obtain those votes? Now, we are not saying that the authorities are bribing these students to obtain votes in the coming elections by the use of these tabs. However, someone else could assume that the provision of these tabs to students for the advanced level could be some form of bribe. Now, we at Newsfirst will continue to monitor the developments surrounding the tabs that are to be given to advanced level students. It's back to Ramesh and Bernadine in the main studios.
Thank you, Zulfik. In more local news, the New York Times has responded to claims made by the Rajapaksa faction regarding the report published by the newspaper.
The New York Times in its release says, quote, if Rajapaksa takes issue with Times reporting, we have encouraged him to contact senior editors at the New York Times rather than intimidating Sri Lankan journalists, unquote. The release says, quote, a group of Sri Lankan parliamentarians allied with the former president Mahinda Rajapaksa held a news conference to publicly criticize two journalists who contributed logistical assistance to a rigorously reported and accurate New York Times investigation into the Hambantota port, unquote. The release further says, quote, it is unacceptable for journalists to be intimidated in this way. This action appears intended to silence critics and curb press freedoms and ultimately deprive Sri Lankans of information in the public interest, unquote. Michael Slackman, the international editor of the New York Times, says, quote, it expects the Sri Lankan authorities to ensure the safety of journalists working for our or any news organization, unquote. UPFA parliamentarian Namal Rajapaksa says, quote, at no time did Rajapaksa or myself intimidate the journalists who worked on this article, unquote. He adds, quote, just like the press has a right to criticize politicians, don't we also have the right to publicly criticize reporting we believe to be faulty, unquote. In his tweet, Namal Rajapaksa says, quote, please specify which MPs you are accusing of having intimidated journalists with regard to the Hambantota port article. When and where did this occur? These types of unspecified, vague accusations are exactly what we have a problem with, unquote. Meanwhile, Minister of Finance and Mass Media Mangala Samaravira sending out a tweet says, back to the old tricks even while in opposition. Shame on you. The free media movements also criticize the intimidation of journalists. The Foreign Correspondents Association says they are disturbed that several members of parliament have publicly vilified the authors of the report without utilizing established channels to redress any grievances arising from the impugned report.
Now, one of the key promises of the Good Governance government was media freedom. Contrary to that promise, Thusita Halloluwa, who is an acting chief of staff of a key ministry and a working director of a major state-owned company, responded to a journalist who raised questions regarding a corrupt transaction in this manner. Now, be informed that several inappropriate phrases that were used by Halloluwa have been cut off from this conversation.
කවුද ඒ කුණුවරප කියලා තර්ජනය කරපු පුද්ගලයා? ඒ තමයි මංගල සමරවීර අමාත්‍යවරයාගේ කාර්ය.
Who is this person who is using slang to threaten people? He, the chief of staff of Minister Mangala Samaravira. Why was he speaking like this? I think you might recall that in the recent past, we were talking about the EAP matter, and we spoke of a person by the name of Sudhir Jairam. He gets annoyed and he speaks in this manner. This is not the first time he spoke in this manner. This is not the second nor the third. Sudhir Jairam is the reason for this person to speak like this. What is the nature of the person who spoke? This chief of staff? How does he speak to senior detectives like Shani Abesekara? How does he speak to senior DIGs? The whole country knows how he speaks to senior officials at state departments. Naturally, this person sits in front of someone and attacks someone else. The person who spoke usually identifies himself as the person who toppled the government. They brag saying they are people who created the government. The people who are listening to this are laughing from their rear end. What do these people say? They write articles and speak of toppling governments and establishing new governments. What did he do? He was charging mobile phones of politicians and bringing them vade. That is a true story that people tell us.
ඉතින් මුන් කරේ මොකද්ද? එන දේශපාලුවන්ගේ ෆෝන් charge කරපු එකයි එතනට වඩේ ඇද්ද එකයි.
Sudhir Jairam, who is mentioned in this conversation, was arrested at the BIA for trying to smuggle out a stock of foreign currency several months ago. Who exerted pressure to secure his release? SL Vlog reports that Thusita Halloluwa is angered by the questions raised regarding a deal that he did with this person.
If there is an allegation or criticism made by the media, we need to have the ability to be patient. That is the democratic and political nature. However, one cannot reprimand a journalist or media institution or even the social media channel using profanity. But there is something more serious than profanity regarding this matter. The person claiming to be the chief of staff is saying this government was created by them. That is the question. If this is a government created, they cannot act in an indecent and undemocratic manner to inconvenience and disturb journalists and media institutions. That is in complete violation of the fundamentals of good governance. If a journalist raises a question, one must respond in a decent manner. The same goes when there is an allegation or a criticism. That is the fundamental of good governance. We believe the Minister of Mass Media would look into this.
තුසිත අල්ලොලුව කියලා අමාත්‍යංශයේ ප්‍රධානියෙක්.
There is a chief in the ministry called Thusita Halloluwa. Did you witness how he commanded his language? We are surprised by this. Will this government of good governance function any further? That clip has been uploaded onto YouTube for the entire world to see how he used profanity. This is not what was promised to the people via good governance. Who gave this officer power to use profanity in such a manner? Who is he to make such threats? We strongly condemn the use of language like this against the media.
සම්පූර්ණයෙන් හෙලා දකිනවා.
What is most astounding is that people holding government positions are issuing threats to journalists at a time when the leaders of this country are continuously commenting on media freedom.
It is wrong to threaten or harass journalists and media institutions. This is against media freedom. I condemn such actions. We are the ones who brought about this peace, but it needs to be ensured. You can browse the internet as you please. You can air real and fake news. This freedom has come about because we created it.
If this individual, known as Tusita Hallolua, wishes to make a clarification or a counter to the revelation made by the journalist, there are many democratic means accepted in society, including a judicial process, that could be followed. He introduces himself to the media as to have worked as the media secretary to politicians like Anura Priyadarshana, Amarasiri Dodangoda and Dilan Pereira, as well as an officer of former President Chandrika Bandaranayaka Kumaratunga's media unit. He also says he was the promotion director of the SLFP's media unit. Is it not this very person who was once detained in Malaysia for not possessing proper documentation? Is it also not this very person who was detained by security forces at the BIA for attempting to carry money out of the country illegally? The conduct of such an individual who is using power and position will never be accepted by a moral and disciplined society. Is it not the government itself that falls into an uneasy situation when people who hold government positions or are government stakeholders boast about their positions and engage in conduct that threatens and intimidates the media? We would like to remind those who level such threats to the media that media institutions too are in possession of details of all their secret businesses and assets.
Tensions flared in Parliament today when questions were raised over a statement made by State Minister Vijayakala Maheswaran.
Is this the view of the government or the United National Party?
As the United National Party, we completely reject this statement. Being the General Secretary, I called her via telephone about this. She told me she made that statement as she was grieving the murder of a little girl. The statement was recently made about Hitler. This is similar to that.
Minister, if she has any issue, send her to the National Institute of Mental Health in Angoda, Kolonava. The constitution has been violated. If she is depressed, she must engage in some other matter.
The CID should investigate this matter and take action against her. She should also be banned from this parliament. We also believe it is wrong to continue to hold a position in the government after making such a statement. She has to resign from her ministerial portfolio.
I will take a decision and I am aware of the serious nature of the matter. I cannot take the decision from here. If so, I will have to adjourn sittings. We cannot be intimidated. I will be speaking to the party leaders on this matter.
Parliament reconvened thereafter. However, the debate over the statements made by State Minister Vijayakala Maheswaran continued.
The incident does not impact the Speaker. There are political parties to address that, and they have leaders. I have spoken to the Prime Minister, and he will take measures to investigate the matter.
We will discuss with the Prime Minister on the future course of action.
MP Vimal Veeravansa, please bear in mind that there were those who made statements to bomb Parliament. There are also those who made statements to set fire to Parliament. I cannot stop Parliament. I have an obligation to continue with the proceedings. I cannot allow you to continue.
ඒකට අවස්ථාව මට අවස්ථාව දෙන්න කතා කරන්න. ඔව්. මට ඕන විදිහට නටන්නේ. එතුමිය මං කැඳවනවා. මං එතුමිය කැඳවලා පරීක්ෂා කරනවා. ඔව්. මේ වීරවංශ මන්ත්‍රීතුමා කට පරිස්සම් කරගන්න. ඔබතුමාගේ මුඛය පරීක්ෂා කරන්න. ඊටම කැත විදිහට කතා කරනවා. තීන්දුව තමයි අගමැතිතුමත් හම්බෙලා කතා කරලා අවශ්‍ය නැ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ විනය පරීක්ෂණයක් කරනවා. මේ සිද්ධිය සම්බන්ධයෙන්
We will hold a disciplinary inquiry and award an opportunity to all to comment.
ආයන්න තුන පිළිතුරු ග්‍රාම නිලධාරී වසම් 575 එක මගින් දක්වා ඇත. ඔබතුමා මේ බෝම්බ ගහන්නත් කතා කරපු එක මෙයා තමයි සුදන. පිළිතුරු 7යි. අමාත්‍ය මණ්ඩල සංදේශ මගින් මණ්ඩල ලේකම් ආයන්න ඔය මේ කරණිය කරපුවා මේ කරන්න බෑ. විජයකාට මං ගන්නම්. ඔබතුමා මන්ත්‍රීවරයෙක් ඇසිරෙන්න. මොකද්ද මේ ඇසිරීම නිකන් චණ්ඩිය වාගේ. ප්‍රසන්න රණවීර මන්ත්‍රීතුමා මට අයින් කරන්න සිද්ධ වෙනවා. ඔබතුමා අයින් වෙනවද නැද්ද? පාර්ලිමේන්තුව කල් දානවා. හෙට උදේ වෙනකම් පාර්ලිමේන්තුව කල් දානවා.
මරික්කාර් මන්ත්‍රීතුමාත් එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂය විජයකලා මහේෂ්
MP Marika is also from the UNP. Vijay Kala is also from the UNP. Even Akila Viraj Karyavasam is also from the UNP and he is the General Secretary. All three of them are from the UNP and have worked according to Ranil Wickramasinghe's plan. And now Marika asks Akila Viraj whether this was the UNP's official stance. This must be asked either in the Central Committee or the Parliamentary Group meeting. They are asking the questions at the wrong places. Today the UNP has forgotten the beginning and the end. MP Marika is struggling to try and get a deputy ministerial portfolio. This is Ranil Wickramasinghe's contract. So please, don't take the parliament for a joke. Ask questions that need to be asked within the party, inside the party. Don't waste the valuable time of the House of Parliament.
The National Movement of Web Journalists filed a complaint with the Ceylon Electricity Board with regard to the illegal cable TV operations in the north and east.
The complaint requests for an immediate investigation over the use of cables for the operations of illegal cable TV in those areas and actions to be taken against them. Several lives were lost in the Jaffna district owing to such incidents. The CEB is incurring losses due to actions of smugglers and those who engage in illegal businesses, looting from the national grid. In addition to drawing their cables, they have used an anti-fire device to use the electricity from those posts. The CEB does not see these incidents. As of yesterday, we were able to confirm that a cable TV operator had set up a post in the middle of two CEB posts in Kalmune in the east of the country and engaged in their business. There are around 100 such posts in the Kalmune town set by a person named Alex Kumar Balasingham. The TRC has only granted permission to one institution and not to any other institution on such operations.
Now, Transparency International Sri Lanka, issuing a release, says that it met with key legislators last week to present the legislative brief on the National Audit Bill, detailing key amendments to be made in the committee stage ahead of the debate of the bill, which will commence in Parliament on Thursday.
TISL says the legislative brief highlights 4 key areas of concern with the provisions of the existing draft of the National Audit Bill, which have been identified following extensive scrutiny and consultations with stakeholders. These concerns surround the lack of accountability in the surcharging procedure, weaknesses in the appeals process, provisions which curtail the investigative powers of the Auditor General, and provisions which are in contravention to the Right of Information Act. TISL notes the National Audit Bill has 3 key provisions. First, the power of surcharge to impose personal financial responsibility on individuals who have caused financial loss to a state entity through fraud, negligence, misappropriation or corruption. Second, the power to examine bank accounts in which the Auditor General believes the monies belonging to a state entity have been fraudulently, irregularly or wrongfully deposited. And third, an independent budgeting mechanism designed to safeguard the independence of the prospective National Audit Office. TISL strongly believes that if these amendments are incorporated in the final act, this will significantly strengthen fiscal accountability in the public sector.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News for tonight. We leave you tonight with footage on the tense situation from Parliament. I'm Ramesh Iruval Bandar.
And I'm Bandin Jai Singha. Take care. Good night.
අපි ඔක්කොම වීඩියෝ ගන්න.